And we're live. Hello, welcome to the Cinema Femme Short Film Festival 2023. I am so excited for our first Q&A, and before we get started, first, my name's Rebecca. I am the festival director for Cinema Femme, and I am just so excited to kick things off with our first Shorts Program 1 Q&A, Let's Chicago. This is the first year we are having an in-person festival. Since I'm from Chicago, I felt like it was important to have a program that was very Chicago focused. So all the filmmakers for this program are from Chicago or live in Chicago right now. So I'm just very excited. Before I let everyone come up, I just wanted to thank our sponsors for making this possible. Neon Heart Productions, Noise Floor, Prism Studios, Hike Creative, and we are fiscally sponsored by IFA Chicago. And just a little bit about our moderator, Clare Cooney. I'm so excited she agreed to do this. She is an amazing filmmaker. Her short film Runner just blew me away a couple years ago, and that was her first short. Since then, she's done a few other shorts, and she has her feature debut coming up soon, Departing Seniors. And she's an amazing actress. She was just in this film Relative, and it's so great. So I'm going to say bye, and I'm going to invite everybody from Short Program 1 to come up, and then we'll just take it from there.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Rebecca. Thanks for having me. Hi, guys. I'm so excited to talk to you all. This is such a treat. I know some of you personally, and some of you I do not. So first things first, I'd love to go down the line. I'll call out your name and then go ahead and say what film you're involved with and what you did on the film. Let's go in order of viewing. Let's start with Swimming Through. So that's Samantha, right?
Yep. So you can call me Sam.
Sam.
I am the director of Swimming Through.
Amazing. And now Paper Planes.
I am Elizabeth Horderson. I am the writer, director, producer, co-director, producer, and co-star of Paper Planes.
Amazing. And then this is not the morning I thought I was going to have.
Hi, everyone. I'm Margaret Kellis, and I am the writer and director of This Is Not the Morning I Thought I Was Going to Have.
Awesome. And then we don't have a rep here from two Stages of Blood, but that one was lovely as well. And then finally, Caroline.
I'm Julie Delpree, and I am the writer and director of Caroline.
Yay, thank you. Okay, so in that same order, I think I'd love to hear a little bit about what the inspiration was for the film, what made you decide to make it, and then we'll go from there. So starting with Sam.
Okay, thanks. Well, I have a passion for being out in the freezing cold at the lakefront. Not in the water, but I do a lot of landscape photography at sunrise over the winter, especially because I just think it gets so crazy beautiful here. And then there was an article in the Chicago Tribune about these three women who had been swimming through the winter of in the lake of 2021. And I had been out there every morning, but not in the same spot as they were. And their story just spoke to me, kind of first of all, just how brave they were, because that was a really freezing winter. Not that any other winter in Chicago isn't freezing, but it seemed like, they were sort of keeping themselves motivated and having passion and for life, like during a time when everything was shut down. And so anyway, that's was my motivation for making it and reaching out to them.
So you didn't know them directly. This was from, okay. Yeah, because I thought it was pretty heart-stopping when we learned that, forget which one of them, their husband had passed, and that was such a motivator to keep it going and all that. And I think that just takes incredible strength. when they talked about the fountain of youth and all that, it was really moving. So beautiful, beautiful work on the
Thank
film.
you.
Alyssa, what was the inspiration for Paper Planes?
Well, it started as like a writing exercise because I had been trying to write like a feature that I had been stuck on for a while. It was sort of like a gritty, like 90s style kind of thing. That I'm still working on.
I'm still excited about that one. Yeah.
Well, I think, yeah, you've seen the first part of it, I think, but,
yeah.
And I just got really stuck. And so I thought it was the beginning of December and I thought like, what's the opposite of this? And I can just sit down and maybe like get the muscles moving and maybe something will happen. And the first thing that came to my mind was like a Christmas rom-com. And generally the way that I work is there's an idea and it falls into my head. And if I don't immediately put it all out, it goes away. So both of my shorts have been, I wrote the first draft in one sitting. And then I kind of joked, like I made like a joke post on Twitter, who wants to make my cute Christmas short? And then our mutual friend, Michael Glover Smith, who, if you are a filmmaker in Chicago, you know, and probably outside of Chicago too, reached out to me and said, well, I want to read it. Send it to me. And then I went, oh no.
This is real now. Oh no.
No, it's real now. Once you like kick the ball down the hill, there's no getting the ball back. What ended up happening is that we were fortunate enough to get a lot of other people to chase the ball down the hill with us. Michael that week had already had plans to have coffee with Puya Shabazi, who was a former student of his, who ended up being our cinematographer. So we had our entire crew assembled. I wrote the first draft on December 9th. We had the entire team assembled by January 1st. We shot on January 29th of this year. And then it's I don't know, it's just out in the world now. So it's a thing where you know some people and some people believe in you and it feels crazy and it just happens.
I'm laughing because I think I work really quickly, but Michael Smith puts me to shame. He works extremely quickly. It's like he's like shooting a film before it's like fully done being written. It's incredible. Yeah. So that's amazing. Congratulations. Margaret, how about you? What was the inspiration?
Alyssa, I'm so excited to meet you because I want to know everything about that process. I had like the exact opposite of a process. It was very long. So definitely excited to learn more about that and how to make things go quicker. But my inspiration was really, I think I grew up in Chicago and examining my own relationship with the city, especially growing up in the Roscoe Village neighborhood and having this really big pride over growing up in Chicago, but then quickly learning how much more to the city there is that I wasn't really exposed to as a kid or never really got to talk about. And really acknowledging that relationship has been a pretty big part of my 20s, I would say. But I wrote a web series. I feel like that was the thing to do for a minute there. And I love web series, but I was very committed to writing a web series called The B Team. And it was about people that felt like they were constantly second choice. And the episodes weren't supposed to be connected, but you might run into the characters kind of, easy. I think we all watched that Netflix show when it first came out. But the one that really called to me was the one that would eventually become This Is Not the Morning I thought I was going to have. I wanted to write a story about two women growing up in Chicago, examining their own relationships with the city, but also just this idea that you can say so many words without really saying anything at all. And who's going to be the person that can call you out on that? Your sibling. At least that's very true to my own experience. So yeah, that's how the short came together. We filmed it over 2 very warm Chicago days. Lots of bloopers with the AC on accident. And I pitched it to one of my very good friends who works for an advertising company or was working for one at the time, said, this will be so easy. It's one location. Of course, it's like in a moving car. So there was a lot more logistics that played out to that. This was my first film. So definitely have learned a little something since we filmed this, but it took a bit of time to finally get across the finish line. So it's been very, very exciting to share it and have a new relationship with it now that I'm a bit older.
Yeah, I think it can be really refreshing to like when the time you're actually going on the film festival circuit with a film, you're a different person than you were when you made the film in some ways. And like your relationship to the film has shifted for better or for worse. So it's always a fun process. It's a great title, by the way. I love it. This is not the morning. It evokes so much right away. So yeah,
It's
great
definitely
job.
long. I've learned that. That's
I
been
like it though.
on
I like
marketing.
it. There's a lot of really good film titles that are long. There's no shame in that. Yeah.
Thank you.
And Julie, for you, what was the inspiration for the film?
I have worked as an intimacy coordinator in theater and on short films, and I have been intimacy coordinated as an actor, bizarrely, because I'm not really an actor. But I'm involved in a lot of circles where we're all talking about consent and how to keep each other safe. To the point where like I almost take those circles for granted, right? But the flip side of those conversations is now that we have a vocabulary for talking about consent and for talking about intimacy coordination and for talking about the things that we should and shouldn't be doing, what are the places where that falls through the cracks? And in my conversations in these circles, I found that a lot of the people I was talking to, most of whom are folks of marginalized genders, right? All had these kind of shared experiences, like post Me Too, like it's great, but, and so I found myself asking what comes after the but. And like Alyssa, I also wrote this in like an absolute fugue state. It was like, it was 2 hours. It was like me and my laptop and the script was done and then we shot it.
Amazing. Yeah. I mean, as an actor myself, there's a lot of audition tapes out there that I'm like, what's on that? And who has access to view it? And there were some weird things I was asked to do, like in the audition room that I don't really want being seen. So I thought I personally really was compelled by the film, the way you shot it. So congratulations.
Thank you.
I'm gonna do one more round of questions from me, and then I'm gonna go to some audience questions next. So for swimming through, the thing that jumped out to me was it is just, aside from it being a really beautiful, emotionally evocative story that I could really relate to, I think we all could, because COVID, I think, was hell for a lot of us. And some of us kind of found ways through it, and some of us really suffered through it. So it was really inspiring on a story front to see these women together. But I was struck by how stunning it was. Like the cinematography is unbelievable. I saw there was some drone shots, there's some like underwater camera stuff. And I'm just curious about, like, did you shoot it? What was all involved? I would love specifics of what you used, all that kind of stuff. It just was stunning to watch.
Thank you. I will pass that compliment right along to Ben Kolak, who was a cinematographer on the film. So most of what you see is his footage. He shot some of the drone footage. He shot the underwater footage. And then we also had Christopher Morrison from Robo Aerial shot some of the drone footage. And then I have a few shots of mine in the film. Just they're not, none of the all of the shots with the women in it are were shot by Ben. But some of the B-roll shots of just the landscape I shot. And then also we got super lucky because that winter there was this senior at University of Chicago student who had been going out at sunrise every day and just taking pictures and shooting a little bit of video. And she had started hanging out with the swimmers just because they were also there every morning. She would just watch them. But, you know, so I met her through making the film, and I asked her if we could, you know, she has a great eye. And so I asked her to use any of her B-roll shots of landscape shots of the lake in the film, and she agreed and gave us all her footage. So a little bit of it is hers, a little bit of is mine, most of it's Ben's, and Christopher shot it. It was, and Ben shot on Panasonic cameras. There was 2 Panasonic cameras.
That's great. Yeah, I mean, I think that we all see like landscapes that are so stunning it takes our breath away, but it's always really hard to capture it in a photo. And I think your film does a beautiful job capturing the atmosphere, the emotion of it, the stunning visuals. Like, it was breathtaking. I kept being like, oh, how'd they get that shot? I loved it. So yeah, great job.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I am always amazed at how beautiful the lake is. And so I really, it was important to me to share that.
Yeah, that's great. Alyssa, this is your second film you've written, second film I assume that you produced, I believe, right? And then your first time directing. What was did different about this process compared to your first time producing, in terms of your second time as a filmmaker overall? And then what was it like directing for the first time?
Well, I kind of this whole process has been easing me in very, very gently, because I got to Claire directed my last script.
Yes.
And that had a really great festival run. So yeah, I got to kind of get my feet wet a little bit with someone who was my friend that I trusted very much with my script, and another actor, Glenn, who was also a close friend that I trusted very much with the material and just to be vulnerable with as an actor. When I was on set for the first one, I really like took the producer hat off, though. I didn't look at the monitor ever, and was just an actor. And this time around, I co-directed with Michael. And when he proposed that idea, I was like, you're crazy. How about I produce? And he's like, no, I think you're a director. So one of the things that I said was that I don't know that I have necessarily the technical knowledge to be in charge of a set. And he said, great, well, I will sort of run the equipment side of things and with the DP and show you how to do that. And you direct the performances. And it ended up being much more of a blend. It wasn't really like that delineated, but it was really helpful to me because I feel like I know how to talk to actors. I don't always know how to talk to, like, for example, our cinematographer Puya is incredible, and he came to the table with so many ideas. And I realized that I actually knew a lot more than I thought I did.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. Yeah.
So it was a really like safe landing. Like I didn't get thrown into the pool ever. So, you know, next time I'll probably do it on my own. But both times I've been really fortunate to work with friends for pretty much the entire cast and crew. If they were not already a close personal friend of mine, they were a close personal friend of someone on set. So it just made everything feel really safe. And also when you're shooting an indie, and especially one with Michael, you move so fast that you don't have time to be self-conscious that you're not making the right choice. You pick a choice and you commit to it and you go, and you have to just trust that your instincts were correct. And I think that served the process really well because I didn't have time to say, I think we should change that setup. Can we go back in for a close-up here? Because I think, and I think that served the actor, Shayna, who's just, God, she's so good. I can't wait for people to see her in this. I think it served her a lot better too, because she got to just be in the scene and didn't constantly have to be taking things back for adjustments.
Right. Great. Yeah. You filmed for a day and a half. Is that right?
12 hours on one day. And then we went back and did like an hour of pickups. And that was just me and Michael and Puya. So the stuff that's like on me on the train, that was an hour the next day. So it was 13 hours total.
Got it. Yeah. That's quick. That's a quick one.
It's a 15-page script.
Yeah. You talk real quickly. Margaret, you mentioned this before. I was struck by, for a lot of the film, I felt like I knew what was about to be revealed, but it was never overt, and I kept thinking, well, I could be wrong, so it was all of this kind of suspicion. So I'm curious about how you handled balancing how much to explicitly say and how much you felt was implied, and you could trust people to kind of make their own assumptions. So that's the first part, and then the second part is kind of related to that. Was there any improv that went on that day, or was it really specific because you had to kind of thread that needle about this like reveal, I guess?
Yeah. To answer your first question, well, from a process standpoint, I'm a theater kid. I mean, you know that I worked in theater. And my story is really dialogue driven. You see that theater influence for sure. So we did do quite a bit of workshopping for about 4 months actually, but that's I love that stuff. I live in the world of like, I want to talk about it. I want to talk shop. I want us to get imaginative. And so there was a lot of improv that sort of was laced throughout the process, but to talk through, so my character has an abortion and her sister is picking her up from that abortion, and we never say it in the script. And I purposely did that. It was a decision. We did film a take where she said it just so that we had the coverage on it, but it became very important after we filmed that how much we didn't want it to be said. And I want people to make assumptions about the women who they think are making choices for themselves. I want to judge them I want to like challenge what people think people are doing when they make choices. And so I leaned in, and I wasn't too worried about whether or not people would get it. It sort of felt like those that get it, those who don't just won't. And that is just going to be what it is. But to make sure that it was, I think when you're ever talking about a topic that can be deeply, deeply personal to people, whether it's someone on set or it's your audience, part of the rehearsal was identifying that there's care needed around that topic. And we all had to kind of create our own backstories for it too. We all had to sort of understand what did happen that morning and what was it like for that character, and creating space for that to make sure it was safe was really important, and really important to me. So once we were on set, while you meet one of my actors, Sarah Ruggles, who Claire, you also know, big comedic girl,
yes.
big comedic girl, like definitely improv. There's definitely some takes in there. There's definitely way more F-bombs that were written in the original script, but like, that's what it is. But it really was rehearsed, and it came from, needing to choreograph it in a certain way that while you could have, I call it being like prepped to play. They're prepped enough that they can have room to play, but they still needed to hit certain beats, kind of like a play. So that when
I'm gonna steal that. I'm stealing that.
Take it.
That's great. Yeah.
But we had to make sure we're driving in a car with a camera strapped on the hood of my 2005 Honda Civic. We better make the most of every single take that we take. So there was quite a bit of rehearsal to ensure that we had the story, we hit the beats, but also to like ensure that there was caution around that topic. So everyone that day felt safe talking about it, and that if you had a personal experience before you came to set that day, you at least could control what was happening that day in a world where we have so little control. So, yeah.
That's great. Awesome. Julie, my question for you is actually kind of similar. There's, an action that occurs towards the end that is actually not shown. And so I'm curious about what the decision was like. It's brilliantly done to be able to be kind of the perspective of the camera being changed with the lens. I loved it so much, and it bugged me. I was like, I want to see, but it was the exact,
but do you?
It was the exact. I don't want to, but I was like, what exactly happened? But like, it was the exact right choice. And so I think I have my instincts about why you made the call that you did. But I'd love to hear kind of the decision behind A, not showing it, and then B, were there specific actions that you don't have to say what they were, but that have happened to you or your friends that informed kind of that moment or that kind of climax?
Totally. So the reason that the thing that happens is not shown on screen is it's a two-parter. One part of it is emotional, and part of it is like from a storytelling perspective. And the emotional piece of it is that I was not trying to replicate the trauma that is expressed in the film by showing it on screen. I actually think that you almost never have to. And then the storytelling reason is similar, which is that in a horror movie, the monster is always scarier before you see it.
Yes.
The shadow of Jaws is so much more terrifying than the shark, especially in this day and age, you see the shark and you're like, well, okay. So that's why we did it that way. And there was one specific instance that did inspire the film, but the film is not wholly autobiographical. I think of it more as like an emotional transposition of my experiences and experiences from peers that kind of like cohered into this story.
Yeah. I mean, I found it incredibly relatable, and all the good ways and the bad ways. And I also wanted to say, you did it. Was this all one take, right? Or was there a moment where you broke kind of the line? Regardless, it felt like it was all very continuous. And so
that's dope. It's two, because there's an actual lens change.
Okay, great.
So it's a 7-minute take and a 2-minute take. Yeah.
Really crazy. How many did you do till you felt like you had the
Oh,
ones you wanted? Yeah.
we did 11 of the first part, which is 7 minutes. And
Okay.
we did, I believe, about half as many, 5 or 6 of the second.
Awesome. She's fantastic. I loved at the end when she corrects they pronounce her name. Anyway, it was great. It was really, really well done. All right, so let's hop into some audience questions. We've got one for swimming through. It says, there's a film critic named Bill Stamets who has taken lots of like photos of the lake during the pandemic, and he was in the credits of the film. What was his involvement in the project?
Bill's great. He was down there that whole winter at Promontory Point where the women swim. And he was just a good source of information and support. And he shoots down there every morning, the water, mainly the water in the sky. And he sets up a whole bunch of cameras right along the shore, and he shoots every morning. And now he swims too, which he wasn't at that point. But he was just, very helpful to me.
That's awesome. It takes a whole community to make a film, so that's very sweet.
Yeah.
Alyssa, what was Christmas like for you and your family when you were growing up, and did that inform your script for Paper Planes?
Wow, that's such an interesting question. It was always my favorite holiday, sort of obnoxiously so, to the rest of my family, because I was always begging to put the Christmas tree up, and my dad's birthday is the 10th of December. So we couldn't do it until after his birthday because then it was winter. But also, my dad's from Iceland, and like the Icelandic tradition is, the big holiday is Christmas Eve. So you do everything Christmas Eve. You get a lot of books, you have a huge dinner, you stay up super late reading the books. There's like some fun games that you play. So it was always a highlight for me. And I'm sure having a couple weeks off school was part of that. But yeah, Michael and I sort of bonded over our love of Christmas films, but also like the idea of rom-coms in general being about yearning. Mm-hmm. And I think that setting it at Christmas in particular for people who celebrate Christmas, it just heightens every emotion. We could have put this exact same story really at any time of year. Mm-hmm. But there's something about it being frigid outside, and we got this. I wrote snow in the script and I was like, we're not going to get it. And we got it. Where she's kind of snowed in and she's in this little snow globe, and she just fills her apartment with lights and happy things and trees. And I didn't get super specific into the backstory because I wanted Shayna to be able to do that for herself if it was helpful. But she's alone, and she creates this space that is really meaningful to her within the walls of her home that she doesn't leave. Mm-hmm. And it was important to us that you really are able to kind of live in that like nostalgia and that sort of that happiness that also hurts a little bit at, around holidays. And I just think that it was a storytelling device. Ultimately, It emotionally impacted everything.
Yeah, it's so funny how as an adult, Christmas it's still my favorite holiday too, but it's like the most lonely holiday sometimes, it's the most nostalgic holiday. And so it's this painful thing. But no, it was beautiful. It struck me as like a little bit more of a serious version of like You've Got Mail set during Christmas. So I was like, that sounds great to me.
Compliment.
Yeah.
That was one of the things we talked about was like 90s rom-coms. I mean, I'm a huge 90s movie person in general, if you know me at all, but it's that sort of, we've been going through a phase, I think, like just culturally of everything needing to be steeped in irony, and like it has to be sort of predisdained by the creator in order for it to be released into the world, so that like you're impervious from judgment. And I'm so fucking tired of it. Like I just really wanted to make just like an earnest story. and they're awkward and they're not smooth, and because flirting is excruciating. And I think that sort of spirit of like a traditional rom-com where they're allowed to be smart and they're allowed to be earnest and they're allowed to actually want things without having to be like too cool for the plot was something that we really wanted to do.
That's great. Here. I agree with that. Margaret, were you involved, and how much were you involved in the process of cutting the film, and what sort of epiphanies or things surprised you in that process?
Yes, I was. So it was a very small creative team. My cinematographer is also my editor. Shout out to her. Her name is Tiffany Bauer. She's currently in Bali. But if anybody wants her contact information, I would love to give it to you because she's truly unbelievable. And I was pretty close to the editing process of this, it being my first film. I think there is a sense of preciousness around it, and also just curiosity around how does the writing actually come to life? You think you got the shot, but do you know if you got the shot? I don't think you really know until you're in the cutting room. Or sometimes the shots can really surprise you. And there is definitely a lot of surprises. I think those that are, I'm actually surprised at how well we were able to seamlessly keep with the original script. There wasn't a whole lot that was actually cut out, which feels kind of like a win, because again, in being in a moving car, you just don't know what's going to actually take and what's not. I think those that live in Chicago will see that you do hop around the city quite a bit in some of those takes between the two characters, but we gave ourselves grace for the sake of the plot. I think that surprised me the most was how much we were able to fit. And I do attribute it to some magic, a little bit of luck. I think we did get a little lucky, frankly. But also the preparation of walking into that, knowing that there was going to be a lot that we couldn't control. So we need to control our timing and the cadence in which we spoke, and knew they were going to overlap each other. So that was going to make sound editing really difficult, getting a clear, like there was going to be a lot that we couldn't control. So we had to prep a lot, which I think helped. And I think I'll continue to do that in my future processes. Hopefully the processes will be quicker, but I think that really, really helped us on the cutting floor.
Yeah, I was going to say, you said it took a long time, the post process. Do you think it was because there were probably a lot of like continuity issues between when the car stopped and starting? Like what was the thing that drew out the process for you? And what do you feel like next time you're going to be like, I want to do this instead of this?
It was, I think any mature filmmaker will be like, yeah, no, that happens. The sound, it was the sound. We just did not get we did not have continuity over the sound. And of course, overlapping did not make things any easy. And we filmed this right before 2020. So we then couldn't get into a studio to fix the sound. And then, kind of dealing with the reckoning of what is my role as an artist throughout all of 2020. And then you're in 2021 and we were able to pick it up again. But it was the sound. Definitely our second film together as a team. We were much better about making sure we all stayed still and we got the sound. Yeah.
Honestly, sound makes or breaks films. It's crazy.
Totally.
So I didn't notice any issues. So you did a great job with whatever you did.
Thank you. Shout out to Noise Floor, one of our sponsors.
Yes, Noise Floor, the best.
Yeah.
And then Julie, what challenges came up for you in the process? Obviously, it was 2 takes, and so probably not quite the same in terms of like continuity or trying to cut it together. But what was the most challenging part, either in production or pre-production or post?
I will say I was very lucky and it was remarkably smooth.
Good.
So that was huge. I had come off of producing a short film where we had just like a true variety pack of issues. So I think it was the world throwing me a bone. But I will say that because of the nature of the oneer, we were rehearsing as we were shooting, right. Which I think is a good practice on set anyway. It's like you want to come in, prep to play, as Margaret would say. But we were almost rehearsing it like a play. And I came in knowing that we had rehearsed on Zoom. It was right before Omicron. So we had all of the rehearsals remote, and then we came in and I was like, the first 4 takes are going to be rehearsal. And they were. Right. And then by take 5, we were kind of like, oh, maybe not, because the song that she sings is by the Beatles and we can't afford the rights, so it's like by take 5, we were rolling. But yeah, I think that there is an inherent challenge in doing a oneer and asking that of an actor, but Isabel is so good that it was a fun challenge.
She's great. And she got me kind of like nervous. I was like, oh, I need to remember I can do all the things I say I can do on my resume, because like, I don't think I could just immediately do like all the different things I say, like right there on the spot. So that was fun.
She was like and a lot of those are her actual special skills. Like I was like, what can you do? Like, what do you feel comfy doing? Except the German,
Okay.
yeah.
I was gonna say she's multi-talented.
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna let you all go, but I'm gonna do one final question. This is kind of what all Q&As end with, but I think it's for a good reason. What are you working on now, or what are you kind of interested in pursuing now? And if you're not actively working on something now, that's fine. What's bringing you joy right now? Let's start with Sam.
I'm working on a couple of things, but the one that may be most relevant here is I am adapting this short doc, Swimming Through, into a fiction feature screenplay, and hope to make that film where we can sort of delve into a little bit more of each of their lives and what was happening for them.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'm sure I know with the docs, the process is like, you might have an idea of what you want to create, but you kind of are finding it as you go. So I think that'd be really great to see kind of it more fleshed out. And if you haven't seen Bad Sisters yet, I recommend you watch it because they do the cold plunge swimming and stuff like that too.
Okay, yeah, no, I haven't
It's
seen
beautiful.
it. Thank you.
It's great. Yeah.
Great.
Alyssa, how about you?
Well, we're kind of on a festival like speed launch with this. We're in 6 and waiting on a couple dozen more. So I'm going to New York next week to New York premiere Paper Planes, which will be fun, at New York Cinefest, where After played last year. And yeah, I don't know. I'm still trying to write stuff. I moved and had a lot going on, so that's kind of been on the back burner, but it's been great to be able to still be a writer when things are slow in the industry or when there's other things going on. I'm not a WGA writer, so I'm not scabbing.
Yeah,
I fully support their strike. But yeah, I can feel there's another idea that's sort of I can feel it percolating, and it's gonna fall down into the screen at some point soon. So we'll see what happens.
Awesome. Yes, you've been like doing your condo, which is gorgeous. So that's been keeping you very busy. Yes. Margaret, how about you?
We just, the same creative team just finished our second film together called The Stacks. So we hope to enter festival season this year. Very exciting. And then I'm writing my first feature, which I hope to make next year. So if anybody has tips and tricks on raising some money, let me know. I just wrote out, I had I call it Comiskey. It's the wherever the socks play was part of the script. I was just given the very handy feedback that is not going to be possible, like if I want to make an indie. So if anybody has any other tips and tricks, I'm all yours.
Awesome. Yeah. And Julie, how about you?
I'm also writing a couple of things for myself, not scabbing. We love the WGA. And I'm developing, I have another short script that I love that is like more involved than Caroline from a production standpoint that I'm hoping to shoot in September. So yeah, fingers crossed.
Awesome. Amazing. So much fun. Thank you all so much. Rebecca, I'll hand that off to you.
Yeah. So thank you for joining us, everyone. And I'm like noticing my bangs are not that great, but doesn't matter. It's all about you, ladies. You are amazing. And thank you for people who tune in. And tomorrow is our shorts program 2 Q&A. Numa Perrier's moderating. So yeah. That's it for today. And then I'll see a lot of you in person on Sunday. Exciting. All right.
Congrats,
you guys,
everyone.
Have a good night.
Thank you.